The recorder is on. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is R. Scott Edwards from scottscomedystuff.com. If you're listening to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith reminding you to always listen to stand-up comedy on Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Scott Edwards. Thank you, down and back. Settle, that's enough.
Perfect. I wish everybody was our Scott Edwards. Let's do that every show. Anyway, thank you. All right, let me hit stop. I'll be right back.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Michael Stein, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
Oh, having a good time. It's Friday. You got your beach scene behind you that looks wonderful, even though you're in Vegas.
Right.
Pleasure to be with you.
Yeah. So you have a Long Shot Leaders podcast. You've got lots of things going on, lots of irons in the fire. So talk a little bit about what you're most excited about in your life and your business today.
Well, today, what I'm most excited about is Bolator. Bolator is a new company I launched, which has created its own patented, unique kind of backpack, which is a soft cooler that's also a backpack that attaches to a tarp, that also opens up to a hammock, that also has a gear organizer on it for like a sidewall to a pop-up tent,
sure,
and a drain on it for collecting diverting water. It's all like a Swiss Army knife of a backpack, and that's really exciting. And then a lot of other fun products that we have on Bolator, which you can go to there at bolator.com. So that's what I'm really excited about. That's my latest business venture, along with my other company, Tarps Plus, which I started in 2000.
Okay.
And my podcasts and a couple other things we could talk about business-wise.
Sure. So, but that sounds awesome. Like, I love things that do more than one thing.
Yeah, sure.
Know? Yeah.
Especially wives. No, what is that? I don't know where that came from.
My wife does more than one thing, so that's good. Most people do.
You're the one.
All right. So let's go back in time and talk about Michael Stein growing up. So you said you had a slightly dysfunctional childhood, maybe, and you had ADHD, dyslexia. So you had a stacked deck of fun growing up, as they say, fun in air quotes.
Yeah, I would consider myself, my story goes as this. I'll just give you the Reader's Digest version. I consider myself a long shot. That's why I do Long Shot Leaders. I was born premature, wasn't expected to be premature. My dad was a New York homeless street kid that became a multimillionaire eventually, then only to lose it all again, become homeless again in his late 40s. And my grandmother escaped the Russian concentration camps and went to America. And I used to hear these stories about your dad was homeless, and then your grandparents were stopped at gunpoint and they barely got out of the country. So you're lucky to be alive. I was born premature. I had a lot of health issues, ADHD, dyslexia. I didn't know what ADHD was back then. I was put in a special needs school called Fernald School at UCLA when I was like 6-7 years old. Didn't know, what was going on. I just thought I was, luckily I was born in LA where I was different and eccentric and people thought he's talented. No, that was a good thing. I
get it. I get that. Yeah.
Right. I always can grab onto that,
Yeah.
but
if you look at like successful, famous people, mostly like musicians, artists, actors, those types, they always have some sort of extreme childhood thing. Like a lot. It's like there's never like a boring childhood story for somebody successful. I've never met one.
I try to tell my youngest daughter who has the ADHD now that they titled her, and she's like, "This just sucks other way." I'm like, and I try to tell her you could be an actor or filmmaker, who knows, because of that, kind of, and she's like, I don't want to do any of that. No. But I really didn't have any success. I had a lot of struggles, among other things. So one day I saw the movie Rocky, like most American kids. And I said, hey, here's a guy like me. He struggles. He's not smart. He gets back up after he gets knocked down. The only difference between this guy and myself is he was physically fit, and I was the opposite of that. I was a very weak kid.
Yeah.
So every day from then on, when I was like 11 years old, I started working out every single day. And by the time I was 16, I became a physical fitness trainer. And I was like, ooh, time plus effort, that equals success.
Wow.
So then after that, the first success I ever had was making people laugh at making fun of myself or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was able to do stand-up comedy when I was 19. And then I remember when I was still in high school, though, my tutor said, what do you want to do now that you're graduated? And I said, well, I want to be an entrepreneur, an actor, filmmaker, and a stand-up comedian. She's like, well, why don't you work with your hands? Because not everybody's meant to do what they want to do. She looked at me like I was nuts. I said, hey, look, my dad never finished the 8th grade. He was homeless. Granted, he's living in a van outside right now, but outside of the old house he bought in Encino. But we're, I think I got a chance. So I started my first business when I was 18, failed miserably.
Yeah.
Started, then I did stand-up. And then I said, I brought a lot of people to the stand-up routine. I could do the same thing with nightclubs, because in the late 80s, nightclubs were very popular.
Right.
And then within like 6 months, I started promoting nightclubs, became the #1 nightclub promoter in my age bracket. And
you're 19 at this time?
20.
20.
At that time, I was 20, like 6 months later.
Right.
And then from there, I was able to, do movie parties for the Batman movie, 4,000 people parties. And one of the most successful movie parties probably, ever, which was the Batman party at the Park Plaza Hotel in Los Angeles. And I was like kind of this wonder kid of like
Michael
nightclubs.
Keaton Batman?
Yes, indeed.
That was a huge year.
Yes, it was. It
Prince
was
soundtrack, 25th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. I remember that year.
yeah, great year.
Yeah.
Great. And the 80s were a barrel of laughs, and they were so wonderful. And then
Yeah.
I met a lot of people in the film industry. And I said, hey, through that, I was able to get my first acting role in my friend's film, The Dirk Diggler Story, which I played Dirk Diggler, and eventually became the movie Boogie Nights, which I appear in as well. And from there, I was able to start making my own films, because I said, hey, he could do it, I could do it.
Did you have to wear a prosthetic member?
No, we didn't have the budget for that, because this is 7 years before he was just a struggling filmmaker also. So I just used like a stuffed, leopard skin underwear.
It was all suggestion, huh?
Yeah. It was just stuffed in there. And believe me, we needed that stuffing. So that's how that worked. And then
hey, if you're a grower, you can show later. That's what I say.
Yeah, neither have been done on my end, but I digress. So I became a filmmaker. I did really well with a couple films. One in particular, a short film called The Rituals and Resolutions, got bought by HBO. Did really well. Got me close to a movie deal, but then no movie deal. And I was broken in debt because I was working as a film production, because I left my nightclub business to be into film. And after 5 years, and after winning many awards and making a little bit of money from this, I was broken in debt. And I said, I want to make this feature film, with this film that no one would allow me to make. And I had this other film that went through, development hell, and that didn't happen. So I said, I'm going to start a business, because the internet was starting. And so I started tarpsplus.com, just selling tarps, like my dad used to sell tools.
Okay.
And within 6 months,
something completely different, you decide to sell tarps. Were you like a camping enthusiast? Is that where
No. So my dad was in the tool business in the late 60s. He had a business partner. And then my dad left the tool business, and in the early 70s started a calculator business that made multi-million dollars. And then he burned it all. And then he went broke afterwards in the mid 70s. And then in 1975, his old business partner that he had tools with, that guy's name was Alan Smith, and he started a company called Harbor Freight.
Okay.
So I saw this happen. I'm like, this guy is bro. I said, and my dad would always say, look, we got to get back in the tool business. And he would tell me when I was a kid, I was like 5 years old, and he'd say, like, this is what you should sell these products and these products for years, drill bits and abrasive wheels. And when that business that failed when I was in high school, the day after I graduated high school, I started that business that failed I told you about. And that was like abrasive wheels and drill bits. And I'm like, this is just boring. But one other product that they were selling was tarps. And I said, a lot of people need those. And this guy, Alan Smith, Harbor Freight, that's like one of their big items. I'm going to do just one thing. Cause I heard like one guy, like on the internet when I was still young, this guy sells ceiling fans and he made 300,000 in 1 year. I was like, oh, I just wanted to do something that was specialized.
Okay.
So I didn't know anything about tarps. I just knew that like people used them and I thought it would as a necessity item.
Sure.
And I was just more hyper, the hyperness of me just to sell and on the internet where you can work 24 hours a day at your leisure. If I want to work at 2:00 in the morning,
you can work.
You can do so
in the morning, right?
So that felt really. That was really. It was a great fit. Yeah, it was a great fit for a hyper guy
ADHD
like me.
Guy, yes.
So that within like a year, I got the money for my film. So then I wrote, directed, produced, and acted in a film called Love Hollywood Style with Faye Dunaway, Andy Dick, Coolio, crazy cast, a lot of people that you've seen.
And it seems like it's kind of like porn related again. So
it's not.
There's like this porn thread.
There's one. Yes, you're right. There's 4 intertwining stories about craziness, love, and Hollywood, dysfunctional relationships in Hollywood, which is oxymoronic. There's one story is about the rise and fall of a rap artist named Montel Meshuggah. The other is about a kind of prehistoric, like 2001-esque ape man that crawls out of the Hollywood sign, and he stumbles upon a porno film shoot, and he becomes the big star for 72 hours until somebody bigger comes along, and no one notices that he's like a prehistoric phenomenon. They just notice you're only as good as your last performance in Hollywood. And then there was another one where a writer brings home a real doll, and then he and his wife have an imbroglio, tour de France of romance between the real doll, the real doll's other real doll's interest, and he ends up, going broke. And then there is the devil who is the CEO of one of the studios, and my character in the film has to defeat the devil in order to save Hollywood. And that's Love Hollywood Style. Those are the 4 intertwining stories that related to each other.
I think I want to check out this movie.
Well, it won some awards, and you can see it. But the thing was, it didn't make its money back, and I was so frustrated. And this business that I started to make the movie, chargeplus.com, was doing really well and growing. So I said, I'm going to take care of this because I almost bottomed the business out by spending so much money on it.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, it's made well over $100 million, and it continues to grow today. And I started Volator, and that's kind of like why I started a podcast called Long Shot Leaders, about somebody that's overcome large obstacles to find success, that have gone up and down, but learned the algorithm of eventually succeeding.
That's nice. I like it.
There we go.
And you made a plan. I like it. You've got like this secret sauce 10 steps.
Yeah, there is an algorithm to success that after 400, you
can like repeat this sauce and it works.
Right. The physics, I got heavily involved in personal development along this journey when I was in my early 20s. And along with studying personal development for so long, and then going through this Tour de France, and then also the podcast Long Shot Leaders in its nearly 500 episodes, there's discovered an algorithm that is always, there's physical knowledge and mental knowledge I can articulate with you. And then you need to get yourself out there to put these steps into place to know how it works for you.
Okay.
Because people say, well, you told me all that. And I know, but you haven't done it. You got to do it. And then fail with it, and succeed with it.
Just sit on your couch and drink a beer and then think things and they don't happen. Wait, what?
Right.
That's not what the secret says.
That's right. And you need to do it. Yeah, right. The secret. That fallacy. You need to do these things.
To get off your ass and do something. Yes.
Yeah. And then you still don't. Once you do them, you got to fail a little bit and then succeed, and then 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and they're like, oh, that's how it works in my situation. And then I failed with that in the beginning. No, then they say, well, that doesn't work. No, you need to fail, succeed, and back and forth a little bit till you get to the pendulum that finally meets you in the middle on that success level.
Right. I like it. So, okay. So talk a little bit about what a producer does, because I think I know what a writer does.
So, it's a great question, because, when Alec Baldwin had his situation in that film where he shot somebody indirectly, people all became experts. Well, he's the producer. He's responsible. There's many different types of producers. There's 4 key different types of producers. You got your associate producer, your executive producer, your overall producer, and associate, executive, producer, and a line producer.
Okay.
So there's four. These are the differences, and this is why Alec Baldwin probably, most likely, and definitely, I'd say definitely is not guilty, because he's just an associate producer. But he attached, because his name was attached, he was able to get more funding for the film. So he's not a line producer, which is responsible for the crew. So the line producer is like a glorified unit production manager, which hires the crew and gets everybody gathered together. The associate producer is like somebody that has like something unique that can offer towards the production, that can like get the film greenlit or made. So
like
that's an
a
associate
connection
producer.
or money or something.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And then the executive producer is the money guy. He's like, I got the money. I'm going to pay, which
Right.
gives me the executive producer. And then the line producer, executive producer, associate producer. And then there's like the, what was that? I guess there's three main: line, executive, but then you could just be attached as a
and then producer, right? Okay.
Yeah, producer, which is basically, you could have like a combination or a variance of those. Baldwin was just an associate producer, covers his name. So that's what a producer does. They basically help get the made. And now more than ever, when you see a movie, there's so many, like, you're watching this movie and you're like, oh my God, produced by this, association with. It's like 17 names. And that's because it takes a lot of people to make movies these days.
Money, a lot of money.
Money, connections, greenlighting the talent.
Yeah.
I was friends with that, Matthew McConaughey. And I got him to be in that film. So I get to be an associate producer because I got McConaughey to be in the film.
Interesting. I learned a lot about how movies get, a lot's a strong word. I learned a little about how movies get made. I had this job at, it was an investment bank downtown LA. It's called DBS Bank, and it's basically the government bank of Singapore. So they have, most of the people in the back office were from China, like they were like, the bank people. And then the back off front office was these bankers that were basically selling movies.
Right. This is the 90s?
Well, no, this was actually, when did I work that job? Like 2015, 16-ish, something.
They were selling like the movie, not selling the package. They were selling They were selling
investment opportunities to this bank.
Yeah.
Right.
So early 2000s. When was it?
It was like 2015-ish.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
That seems like such a 90s, early 2000s. So they're still doing that. Yeah. I mean, people are looking for investments, and I got to tell you, it's probably one of the most volatile investments you get involved in is making a film.
Right. So each dude in that office had their like production director, like team, right?
Yeah.
I only work with these people because they always make money. Or usually make money, right? So it's like the bank doesn't want to know anything about avant-garde, not making money, pet projects, fuck all that. They just want to get a return on their investment.
Right.
And sometimes good art comes out, I mean, the money has to come from somewhere.
Right. And it's usually, who's ever really your main producer, that's where the overall producer on an independent level can help you, because your line producers, he's just going to get your crew, and executive producers, sometimes they'll just get to the money. But that, there's hybrids of all these also, by the way. But it's a talented guy that says, look, I specialize in getting this. I know the AFM, American film market. I know we can do this circuit and that circuit. And I know how we can get distribution, and they specialize in distribution.
Yeah. Like Mark Wahlberg is like this huge name in production now, and he just like does it all from his house. He's like, I can do this anywhere. All I'm doing is, talking on the phone.
Well, he set himself up with a nice, easy situation. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's really smart, believe it or not.
No. He's
Marky
super
Mark
smart.
background.
Oh yeah.
But he got the name, and then once you got the name and you have a really good business acumen or a base of understanding of tenacity, the name really, it's like, oh my God, it's like going downhill. Like, it's so
It's
easy.
like a good quarterback, like a Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. They're playing the percentages. It's like, no, I'm not going to bet on that. That's a piece of shit. Throw that ball away, right?
Yeah, in that regard, Wahlberg also has like really made great choices in films.
Yeah.
He's like 90, batting 90%, maybe 10% of his films are like, but really he's like his percentage ratio of like
They
good
still
choices are
make
amazing.
money, you know, even his dogs make money is what I'll say. It's like,
Yeah. Oh, he loves his municipal. He's constantly selling too, you know, and I just love that about him. You know, it's like, you know, I wish, you know, he should sell a little less, you know, kind of like Gary Vaynerchuk's like jab, 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 right cross.
right.
But, you know, hey, look, you know, I would be doing the same exact thing if I was Wahlberg. I'd really try to stick to the most, you know, classiest, you know, art house films that I could. But then I'd be an entrepreneur because that's also, you know, what I am, you know, and I have that desire. And I think what he's doing is so smart, so good.
I like the fact that you've got your, you know, you can like take risks if you want to do something production because you've got money, right? You don't have to do this to eat, right? You're more like doing it for fun, right?
It's been a while since I've done a film, and that comes up sometimes. I just wrote what I consider like my best script. You know, I've written 8 scripts, and my best script is was done about 2 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so close to like wanting to just make this for like $250,000 or, you know, I could easily do it, you know, because I know how to get that done. But that's $250,000 that you're just going to throw away. Right. Now, it might make money. Right. It might.
Right.
And I know that I have the writing chops, and I know that my background's strong enough to where I'm like, I can get like, you know, certain Maria Bella or like, you know, certain, I have a certain cast that I want, you know, and I know I can get them, but it's going to cost X amount of money. It's going to be about $250,000, maybe a little more, maybe 350, 400,000, you know, for a film.
Okay.
Good independent film. And I know it, but that's money that you got to be prepared to say, look, that's gone.
Exactly. That's on the table.
That's hard to do.
It is.
Because the next lesson, boys and girls, is for every dollar you spend now, that for all you younger folks, that's about $60 when you retire. So like, if you want to take like $1 million and put it in the NASDAQ 100, that's about $60 million by the time you retire.
Right.
Think about that every time you want to buy a new pair of tennis shoes.
Yes. Well, we're getting close to wrapping up.
That was valuable. That was a lot of value for near the end.
Yes. So like, we should do this again. Come back when you have another 30 minutes because we'll get a part 2 going on. This is fun.
Likewise, a pleasure.
You're busy. Yeah. So people can get in touch with you. They can Google Long Shot Leaders podcasts. They can check out Bolator.com. And you are Michael Stein. Thank you for being here. This was a blast.
Thank you so much. A pleasure.
Come back anytime. Hasta la vista.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.